The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. We're going to give everybody another 2 minutes or so to get logged on. So we will get started very shortly. Thanks for your patience.
Hi, everyone. This is Megan Lally, Director of Operations. I am here with Senior Ops Manager Bethany Jesse and Regional Ops Manager Melissa McComb. These ladies both have 3 years of experience each as a hand and stone spa manager, and they currently work with 25 to 30 spa managers in their respective territories. We use what they've observed on site to compile this monthly webinar, and we've also solicited the help of managers in the field to compile our content. We will speak to all parts of preparing and executing an effective team meeting, as well as measuring its impact. So I turn it over to Bethany and Melissa.
Hi, guys. All right. We are so happy to be here with you again for our third monthly webinar. So what we decided to do this time, we did it a little differently. We reached out to the group of managers that struggles with meetings, and we put some feelers out to see if anybody had some feedback for us. And we saw a strong pattern in a lot of the answers that we're going to cover today. So thank you to everyone who replied to our Facebook post, to our email, just to give us some of their thoughts. You really helped us shape today's webinar.
So we're going to speak to a couple different audiences here. We're going to discuss managing attendance, keeping your employees engaged, keeping it fresh month to month. We're going to battle our naysayers a bit, and we're going to discuss how to measure success. You need to see this in the numbers and the culture after your meeting. So everyone will have a little something different that they want to grasp from today that will help shape their meetings a little bit more.
Yes, so excited. Okay.
So we have the before, during, and after of our meeting, and each piece of this is crucial for your success of your meeting. You can't do one without the other. So before the meeting, you want to determine why are you having this meeting in the first place. You want to connect with your leadership teams. This may be your lead SAs, your MTs, your LEs, maybe an assistant manager. These are going to be your co-pilots for each department. They're going to help us identify your stars. So our stars are people on our team that may necessarily might not have a title, but they exemplify a characteristic of success. During the meeting, we want to keep the team engaged. We have to successfully impart the information on them, impart a sense of ownership for the topic, and really make them champions of change. So we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper.
Oh, I love that phrase, champions of change. I'm going to borrow that.
That's our phrase for the day.
So after 2, you can't allow an idea to live only on an agenda. You need to discuss it regularly, make it a priority, observe. So watch to see who picks up what, where you need more follow-up. That's going to be how you help to drive your topics home. If we're being honest, nobody retains everything the first time around. So your follow-up coaching is going to be important to ensure success. So the first topic we'll talk about is before the meeting. So like Melissa was saying, you need to determine what kind of meeting you're having. So you want to ask yourself some of these questions. You know, is there a promotion coming up? Is it to improve performance? Is it your regular monthly meeting? Or, you know, which employees is this for? So, for example, we have Christmas in July coming up. So a lot of managers will do a meeting on this upcoming promotion and kind of do like a refresher training. Anytime a new product comes out for your estheticians, you can do a training meeting on them for that. And I know, Melissa, you had some great examples that you were telling me as we were creating this of meetings that you used to have. What was the one that you were telling me about with the groups?
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes you want to have a mix of some of these types of meetings, and realistically, you can't do all of these in just an hour of it or 2, but you can combine a little. You know, there was times, so we would start a meeting as an all-staff meeting, and the first maybe 30 minutes or so was all staff in the lobby, and we discussed housekeeping, contests, anything that we wanted to kind of touch base on as a whole. But then we would break off into our 3 different groups, LEs, MTs, and SAs, and the leads of each of those departments would host that meeting, and I would kind of trickle around. We'd have them in 3 different areas, maybe the spa associates up at the front, estheticians in a room, and the MTs in the couples room. That way we could target down specific things for each department. You know, the estheticians don't want to hear about not changing the code properly for a spa associate and vice versa. So this allows you to get the team together, but then still break off and segment into specific groups.
Oh, I love it. And you really got to keep them engaged too when you've got all those different departments in the same room. So I love that you broke it down and really paid attention to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So before the meeting, you have to prepare your content. You have to decide, is this going to be a team conversation or is this going to be a one-on-one? What's appropriate to discuss in a team setting and what's to be discussed in private? You know, what makes sense to present to a team versus one-on-one to control negativity? A good rule of thumb is if it doesn't apply to a majority, you are now just sharing an issue with the entire team that would have been dealt better one-on-one. Good chance half the team didn't even know what you were talking about. And that's not the type of vibe that we want to take place in the meeting. We heard a lot of your feedback about retention and the material not sticking in the meeting. When reviewing your content and what you want to discuss during the meeting, a majority of it needs to be positive. If a majority is negative and you're coming off as barking like a dictator, it's going to affect attendance and the retention of the information. If you have something negative to discuss to the whole team, make sure it proceeds with a positive on how to fix it and how we're going to overcome it as a team.
Right. Guys, these people are adults, and adults don't like being told what to do. None of us do, so don't just kind of tell them what to do. Involve them. Use that partnership approach that we talk about so often to really help engage them and give them ownership of fixing these issues that may come up. All right, so involving your team, you want to involve some of your key players, and these aren't just your leads. So these are going to be people that exemplify best practices and what you're really trying to communicate based on the type of meeting you've decided you're having. So at the end of the day, they want to hear from their own. So if we consider this from your own perspective, you listen to these webinars not just to hear from us, but also to hear the guest speakers, one of your own managers from the field who has done very well with this. So apply the same concept to your meetings. It'll give you an opportunity to recognize a job well done, and it will hold the team's attention as they have a peer speaking to them about how to do it, not just their boss. And we have not coined the term guest speaker, so you're also welcome to use that.
So a lot of your success is going to come from your prep work. You can't wait just a few days before to start planning. You want to start a few weeks ahead of time. So now that you've decided on your topic, we will have to determine the most effective way of delivering this information so it really sticks, guys. How are you going to sell this to them? Meetings are about influencing the team. You have to convince them to do as you ask, whether it's a brand new concept or just restoring a concept that has slipped and is not as effective anymore. I think this is really where your sales skills are going to come into play. Consider your message and truly sell it, guys. If you don't tell them what they need or furthermore what's in it for them, I promise you, you're going to be frustrated in the following days after a meeting. You'll think, I just taught them this and no one's doing it. We had a lot of emails from managers being frustrated. We spent the time teaching them things and the very next day they aren't doing it. So this is where the prep work comes in. It's all about the delivery.
Right. I have been there. Oh my gosh. So think too, what gets your team excited? Is it games and prizes? Announcing a contest? Do you have a budget to work around? And there's a ton of different fun ways that you can really make this interesting while still fitting it into your budget. So you could do something like getting a pizza covered to feed them by trading a gift card, or using extra gift with purchases that you have left after a promotion as your game prizes. So we need to make sure, of course, that they show up for the meeting. Otherwise, you're not really going to have a very fantastic one. So part of the prep work is how to announce it. Setting expectations early is key. So while we don't normally like to discuss specific pay, I do want to say that you are required to compensate at least minimum wage to employees for attending the meeting. So we understand that budgets are a factor too. And ultimately, as a result, this investment should be worthwhile. You want to see this result in increased revenue. Otherwise, you need to evaluate the meeting structure in your process. Like I said, this is an investment in time and money, so make sure it's worthwhile.
You need to get them interested. This will help pique the interest of even your eye rollers. To be honest here, I believe my team honestly felt like they were missing out if they weren't able to make the meeting, or if maybe they showed up a little bit late. I made meetings a priority. It was a lot of fun with a sprinkle of pieces of information that I needed to communicate. I know some of you guys are probably rolling your eyes at me right now, but my team really did enjoy these meetings because I made it fun and effective at the same time. We always incorporated some kind of fun game, announced a contest, but there was an expectation that we were going to improve some type of skill during this meeting. And I got a ton of feedback of thanks, I really learned a lot today. And we hear your frustration in some of these emails about not being able to get your team on board. And I want you guys to take a look back and evaluate your approach and see if you would truly join if you were on the other side of that meeting. Again, it shouldn't be a meeting of just everything that they're doing wrong. It should be very positive and engaging.
Yep, FOMO. So, the fear of missing out, FOMO. So it's a real thing, and you want your team to experience it. If they're worried about missing out on what they're going to hear in the meeting, then they're going to attend it just to avoid that fear. All right, so to that point, we wanted to introduce our guest speaker. This is everybody's favorite part. So we're going to welcome Amanda to the line. She is a regional manager for Brick and Spring Lake, and she has been for several years. She emailed us with some great questions, but also some best practices that have allowed their locations to host some productive and fun meetings. So, Amanda, welcome.
Hi.
Hi, how
Can
you
you hear me?
doing?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. Thank you for joining us. So, my
Yeah.
first question for you, I am dying to know, how do you prepare for an upcoming meeting?
Well, kind of like you said earlier, I mean, I always, every day, carry a small notebook around with me. That is something that I could put in my pocket, my purse, or kept on my nightstand before when I go to sleep, because anytime something pops into my head or something happens in the spa, I want to write that down so I remember to relay it to my team. So that's constant and ongoing. But whenever we schedule a meeting, in addition to the notebook that I carry around with me, my manager in my brick location had created this, and I loved the idea, but we created a meeting agenda notes folder in our email. So we would create a new folder for our upcoming meeting, and anytime we would receive an SMG review or a booking error or weekly ops info that's really important, something along those lines, we would mark that as important and then move it to the folder for upcoming meeting information, rather than print it out and just it might get lost within the shuffle. So this folder was really important to come back to. Then about a week before the meeting, I typically would start organizing all of the notes, the folder, the punch list, and any other materials needed for this meeting, and start drafting my agenda. And in addition to all of the information part, I typically like to gather prizes so that I have little prizes to give out throughout the meeting, which makes it really fun. And organizing the meeting in categories or topics is usually what works best for me and my team, because it enables the meeting to flow versus all over the place. And then after each topic or category, we check for understanding and then move on to the next topic. And my goal is always to end any meeting that we have with the most important topics and information, as well as the most positive and exciting stats and or accomplishments, which deserves recognition. This way the team walks out of the meeting feeling very proud, positive, motivated, and they're just ready to execute and deliver what was just reviewed in the meeting. And it's always ended on a really positive note with smiles walking out.
Oh, good. I love your how you're talking about how much organization goes into it, and that you're doing this more than just a week prior. You've almost got like a rolling folder. I love that.
Yeah.
And also, oh my gosh, I think it's huge that as you're keeping it flowing, you're still checking to make sure everybody understands. They may not retain it, but you're making sure that they're understanding it, and that is so huge.
Absolutely.
Amanda, I would love to know, how do you announce your meetings in a way to ensure attendance? I know you have had a great success rate with your employees attending your meetings. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So we typically, I know what our staff's availability is off the top of my head. I remember odd things, but we announce them via Asana as well as an email. And on Asana, they must like the post so that we know that they are able to come. If there's anyone unable to attend any of our mandatory meetings, depending on how many that is, we typically don't have a lot, but if it's one of our spa associates, then we schedule out beforehand, never after. We schedule a one-on-one meeting with that person to review all of the meeting notes and agenda. And if it's more than one, we have a small group, then we're definitely going to schedule a second small group meeting. And again, it's always scheduled beforehand, because if we say we'll go over it afterwards, it's never going to happen, because we're all too busy to do that. So scheduling beforehand is really important. And we do get a great attendance always, because it's fun and it is not just do not do this, do not do that, don't do this, why did you do that? That's not how we do it. So they want to come.
Oh, fantastic. And just for anybody that doesn't know, Asana that Amanda just mentioned, it's similar to Slack for those of you that know what Slack are, and for those that still have no idea, it's like an instant messaging platform where you have different channels and groups that you can use within the spa.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Amanda. I love your feedback. I think the team can really take away from it. If you wouldn't mind hanging on the line, we'd love to bring you back to share a few best practices after we talk about the meeting itself.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Amanda.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about during the meeting now that we've talked about some great prep work. So announcing the purpose and going over the agenda first in the meeting is going to be a great way to set expectations for your team. It's going to let them know how the whole process is going to go, so you'll have less questions throughout. Even if it's mandatory especially, tell them, thank them, let them know that you appreciate them coming, and just tell them, I promise it's going to be fun, it's going to be interactive, I'm going to feed you, all the big stuff. So once you've kind of set their expectations too, what you want to do is engage them. So we have a couple of examples, and one of the first ones is relevant icebreakers, and you might be wondering, what the heck is that? So that's one that's pertaining to the spa or the purpose of the meeting. This is a great way to start off on a lighthearted approach and avoid a bash session, because sometimes those are easy to slip into. There's a game that I absolutely love. Melissa, what is the name of the game where you've got like the word on your forehead and you don't know what it is, but the rest of the team knows and they have to give you hints to guess what it is? Oh my gosh.
Like the heads up game, right?
Yeah. So there's I've seen this played with estheticians where they'll put the card on their head. Actually, I think Megan told me about this too. And the other estheticians have to give them hints to guess what product is on their head. And it's a great way to educate them on new products or just the classics that are out there.
I love that. And it's fun, but you're still hitting the education point as well.
Yeah.
I also like an in-spa scavenger hunt to kind of get them up and moving. Everyone comes and sits down, and right in the beginning of the meeting, and to get some energy into the room, you could do a little in-spa scavenger hunt. Maybe where do you find the repeat pitch? How do you find your conversion in Millennium? Where do we keep extra sheets? Or you could go many different directions with that, but that gets the team up and moving.
Right. And there's, I love that too, because it helps them figure out how to answer their own questions. And speaking of questions, I just want to acknowledge to everybody that is sending in questions. We do see them. We'll absolutely touch on some answers to those at the end if you don't already get those as we go through. So bingo, there is, I've seen bingo too. That was one other one. And this is a great example of something that you can give prizes out for, just like the heads up game. Just like the in-spa scavenger hunt, the bingo card. So if you've ever been to like a baby shower or bridal shower, you know how when the spotlight of the show is getting all of their gifts and opening them, they'll give out those blank bingo cards and you write everything on there for what you expect they're going to get. And then the first person to get bingo, gets to get a prize. You can do this with your meetings too. So you can start it off by having your team fill out the card with different words they expect the meeting host to say, different topics. Like if you're coaching them on memberships, on their sales training for spa associates, you can have them write down words like objections, repeat, membership, all that good stuff, and see who gets bingo first. This is going to have them hanging on your every word too.
And you can print those bingo sheets right offline completely for free and fill them in however you want.
All right, so you've got them engaged, but you also have to control the mood.
So you may have noticed that we keep bringing it back to the delivery. It comes down to the vibe guide. These are the real motivators. You want to have a good vibe going on for them to have a good learning environment.
Right. And involve your vendors in your local shops too. So this is a great example of the power of your partners and local shops and vendors. It helps them too, especially if it's like free marketing for them, and they'll provide the food and it's free food for your meeting. I've had SAs bring food and eat it during a meeting when I didn't provide it. And you can always tell the hungry ones because they just kind of stare across the meeting at the food more than they're looking at you. And it's horrible because you know you've lost their attention. So it seems like a small thing, but feeding them is a great way to control the mood and make sure they're paying attention. You want to expect the unexpected also. There's going to be people that bring grievances to the table that you weren't expecting to be brought up in this meeting. And just like we talked about earlier, you need to think about if the conversation you're having right now is distracting a majority of the audience, and is it one that's going to be better off in a one-on-one later?
So we're all planners. We came up with this agenda for the meeting. We have all these topics that we're planning to address, and we may get thrown off if we're interrupted. The big thing here is to make sure your face doesn't show it. Do not let it throw you off when someone asks a question you were not expecting. Lighten up. You can't plan for everything, and that's okay. If you're training on something new, incorporate role play. Most people need to implement what you're teaching through role play. We understand it can be awkward sometimes, but you can't just tell them. They have to have the interaction piece along with it to actually learn it.
Right. And with that too, you're going to have your challengers. They're going to pop up, and likely you're going to know who these people are ahead of time. And you're probably all sitting there thinking about your individual challengers in your spas right now. So keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Too long of a meeting, you're going to lose their attention. Encourage questions, but control them too. So sometimes you just need to wait till the end to answer them, and that's okay.
So Bethany mentioned handling your challenger, and your challenger won't always present themselves the same way. So it's important to handle these different types respectfully but firmly. So yes, to avoid derailing the meeting for the attentive listeners. So you want to prepare for these ahead of time. Challengers were something we heard from a lot of you in your responses. And we want to give a little shout out to Norma for sending us these names. They were super on point for where we were going with these categories.
Thanks, Norma. We appreciate it. So one of them up at the tippy top is the clock watcher. And these ones in particular are one that may very well have identified themselves early on by letting you know, I'll be there for the meeting, but I have to leave early. And let's face it, they've already laid out their priority as leaving, so don't let this person distract you. This person is going to need one-on-one direction. And at the end of the day, they did show up for the meeting. Our employees have their own lives, just like we do, and we need to recognize that and just recognize that, again, they did show up. So ultimately, don't hold it against them. Don't get distracted. They're here. They're not causing a problem. And just understand that you're not going to reach and impact every single person during the meeting.
Agreed. The next one is going to be the disengaged. This person to me can come off as a little rude, but they actually are learning. But they might not come off as actually paying attention. This person, I would say, is commonly misunderstood. Disengagement does not mean that they do not care. This is a person off of our SPA associate profile matrix. They are typically the smartest person in your class, believe it or not. They understand internally, but they don't present it externally. So don't feel like you need to call on this person. Just confirm once with a simple question that they're on track and get back to the meeting. I wouldn't let this one derail you.
Right. And like Melissa was saying, this is on the Spa Associate profile matrix too. So that's going to help you handle this one also. The chatty Kathy. Okay. So this one's going to manifest one of two ways. The first part's going to be overly participating in the meeting, and the other is going to be by talking to other employees. So what you need to do, what you can start by doing is leading with another person's name, and trying to kind of politely settle them by acknowledging that you're addressing your question to somebody else, not just the chatty Kathy, and be able to make your point. The other piece is when they're talking to other employees is they're going to say they're having a side conversation because they're talking about what you're discussing. And it's okay to interrupt and just ask them if they have a question. This can be broken up also by using some of your preferred engagement tools like trivia questions, the bingo game, that kind of thing. We've got the takeover. Okay. So this one, and I know at least for me, names already come to mind from when I used to work in the spa, but you're going to have one that interrupts for questions on everything. So they're going to come across as the meeting is hosted just for them. They can't learn from direction and they need interaction. They're paying attention, which is good, but what you'll need to do is involve them in the conversation naturally and try to keep it all on track. Oh, this last one's my favorite. Melissa, tell us.
We're going to save the best intent for last. I think we all can say that we've had a negative Nancy on our hands at one point or another. This person is going to find a flaw in every plan. Really, if we're honest, it's kind of like their own superpower. They can find something negative about anything.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, it is healthy to engage and respond, as some of these issues will likely come up. However, if it goes down an unrealistic path, you have to just simply let them know in the interest of time. Y'all can touch base offline with further questions after the close of the meeting. But we're going to stick to training and reaching the majority of the team right now. I think it's good to provide a little humor with these types of people, to not come off too direct, but always redirecting back to the agenda.
Yep, absolutely.
So with these few categories, you should be thinking of some of the names that come to mind of your team and how you would handle them.
Right, we have a couple of quick examples, like those that are very strong with retail sales, strong conversion rate. Like Melissa said, just tie it into what the topic of your meeting is and use that to pick out your stars. All right, so when you're actually incorporating them, like we were saying, this is someone who exemplifies the purpose of the meeting. If you don't have this person already, you can create this person. If you know that you need to have a meeting on repeat conversion for next month, pick one of your spa associates that you think is going to be very coachable and work with them to help them get to that level of success. You can create your own guest speaker for these meetings just by giving them that one-on-one coaching and then allowing them to be able to talk to the team. If they're successful with something, they deserve their 15 minutes of fame. Okay, maybe not 15 minutes, maybe like 5. But whether it's 15 or 5, they deserve it. We just want to, like we said, short, sweet, and to the point. So give them that recognition. So what we're going to do now is we are going to welcome Miss Amanda back onto our webinar to talk about some best practices during her meetings as well. We've gotten a couple of questions so far about different examples of contests and that kind of thing. She's going to have some great insight. So, Miss Amanda? Amanda! Okay. We are going to, it looks like we lost her. We're going to give her a minute to hop back on. So while we are waiting on that, what we can do is we can start telling you about some of her answers. Hopefully we'll be able to get her back on the line before we're done. All right, so one of the first questions that we had for her was best practices as far as being successful in implementing sporadic games throughout the meetings to keep attendees engaged. And
I think we have Amanda here.
Amanda?
We found her.
Hi,
She was pitching a membership. We caught her pitching.
Beautiful. All right, so Amanda, tell us about your best practices that have been successful for you with implementing games throughout the meetings to keep employees engaged, and kind of your approach and success with this.
Okay, well, I mean, who doesn't love a good old-fashioned trivia game?
Yes.
I know I always love trivia. I remember loving, winning the last question of certain games I played in high school. It was really fun. So, as mentioned previously, I do gather prizes for my meetings, and I also come up with trivia questions, which are very informative and cover all the areas needed and that I need to spend some time and attention on. And sometimes if I see the team doing or not doing something that I need to remind them of, I incorporate trivia questions throughout the meeting to kind of keep them motivated and do something fun and engaging. So these questions are similar maybe to sales huddle questions because some of them include policies, our performance, daily operations, and the do's and don'ts of the spa. But I also like to incorporate a few questions that get a good laugh and get the group, awake, focused, and engaged on a positive level. Something like, what does Amanda always start her messages with? And then they all start laughing, and then they'll start saying what I say, and I always say, hey. So that's an ongoing joke. Or our owner has a lot of favorite sayings, so one of the trivia questions may be, what is Maria's favorite saying? And I mean, obviously you get the point, but the team really just starts getting engaged and they laugh and have fun with it, and we give out prizes. So while we're asking informative questions too, I kind of break it up when I see that it needs to be broken up with a little engagement with a funny question like that. After years of hosting staff meetings, I know that if I don't have their attention, they're not retaining anything. And I really feel that staff meetings should be engaging, informative, motivating, as well as goal-oriented, because you want everyone to leave the meeting to strive to hit the benchmarks, the goals, or to be number one or win the contest. And they're not going to do that if they're just sitting in a meeting that's negative and it's a list of do not do this. So learning how to deliver those do's and don'ts is key. And I think that finding your own rhyme or a reason or way to execute that is important. And I know I deliver them in trivia questions because that's how I know it engages my team and makes it fun. So you have to remember that a staff meeting is the manager's opportunity to get a lot of information out to the team, but also keep them motivated to deliver the results that you want. And what happens after the meeting is going to be able to determine whether or not that meeting was effective. And so far, I've been really successful with the effectiveness of the meeting because of keeping them engaged and motivated and happy and positive, and turning those negative questions or do not do this into a fun question versus a negative.
Good.
Like pointing the finger up.
That's awesome. I love that you use the games throughout the meeting and not just at the beginning or the end to kind of break it up. I think a lot of managers can have a good takeaway from that. So throughout the meeting, I'm sure you have came across your own negative Nancy's, and how do you take the negative out of Nancy? We control the situation, but we still encourage further questions.
Well, so, all right, well, first off, all of our group meetings are held either at a place that serves food, or if it's in-house, we order food and we provide it. So they are eating, and that's so we can get a lot of information out so they talk less. No, but just joking about that. But if I had a negative Nancy who continuously tried to control the situation at one of my meetings, I would be sure not to allow the negative attention go towards that Nancy. If it was noticeably disturbing the meeting, I would advise the group to take a minute to eat and then maybe subtly pull Nancy aside and explain that we would discuss this one-on-one, and that the negativity needs to leave and leave that baggage at the door, and we're going to have a fun meeting with important information. So I would expect my employees to respect me enough to do so, and I do get respect, and then I will respect the negative Nancy by giving her my time after the meeting to answer any further questions. So the goal is immediately get the focus off the negative Nancy, and immediately after the meeting, I would just send an email recapping our conversation to the negative Nancy, what is expected of our employees, and what will happen if the expectations are not met. So documenting everything is important, but that negative Nancy, really just immediately just try to redirect that focus and make sure you address with her, because you can't have that constantly. It's going to interrupt all your meetings.
Right. And I like that you take a second to pull them to the side too, and you're just very upfront and letting them know that you'll address it one-on-one. And I like that you're not doing it in front of the entire meeting too, because we don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable about asking questions or voicing their opinions. We just need to control some of it. So I think that's a great approach.
Right. If I set it right to them, and then everyone's staring, they'll talk about it after the meeting saying, oh, Amanda was really upset with you, or what happened with that? And we don't want to draw attention to it. It's just, you really just want to keep it moving. And that's another good reason why I think serving food is great, because you can kind of use that as, okay, let's take a minute and everybody start eating and take a minute to regroup, and that'll be my time to address something off to the side. So
perfect. So speaking of after, how do you assess retention and reinforce the material covered?
Well, definitely by doing it myself, and I'm part of the team no matter what. Constantly, reinforcing everything that I expect from my team. I'm doing it myself. We role play with the teams on how to effectively roll something out from our meeting, and it's not just done from a manager. It's the teams are doing it, and the spa associates are working together. They know when they have downtime and when they have a moment to actually role play versus doing everything else that is happening in the spa. And I also meet with my management team to review the game plan and material. So balancing the schedule with managers and leads are really important as well. So I always schedule managers, or I try to at least balance them so that there is always one person from the management team on the schedule most of the day. So they're my eyes and ears on a daily basis in the spa to ensure that everything's being forced and there's someone to go to. So balancing that, you don't want to have the managers all on at the same time. That's not effective. And I mean, you want to utilize them and make sure that they're there. Also, listening to Yodel calls weekly is one tool that's so important, and I'm able to reinforce the material over the phone and ensure that they're doing it, and the spa associates listen to the calls and they're able to rate them as well and listen to what they've done wrong or right, and someone else too. But most importantly, the management team must be following all the policies and all of the material that was covered in that meeting. And they're the ones that are constantly going to reinforce everything that's happening in the spa. If I'm telling them, everyone, that they need to stand, the managers cannot be sitting down talking to clients. So
Right.
really,
Okay.
they have to take control. So they're the ones, you know, we are the ones that they're going to follow. And most importantly, I
Exactly.
think that it myself is key. And I'm part of the team as well. I was emptying garbages last night and doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. So,
Good.
you know,
I love it. And while I would love to assume that listening to Yodel calls is going to be your one piece of advice for managers, I'll let you tell us, if you had one piece of advice for managers out there listening, what would it be?
be approachable and make your presence known in the spa to your clients and your staff. No one wants to see a closed door every time they need to see a manager. Yeah, open door policy, and most importantly, inspect what you expect.
I love it. That is probably one of my favorite quotes in the history of Hand and Stone. So inspect what you expect. Thank you so
Yes, that's
much, Amanda.
my owners as well.
Yeah,
Thank you, Amanda.
thank you.
Thank
We
you
really
so much.
appreciate all of your tips and feedback, and I know the managers do too.
Oh, thank you guys so much.
Thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So we've talked about some best practices for during the meeting, and of course, we've talked a lot about that follow-up too. So let's touch on after the meeting to get ready to kind of make sure that our employees are retaining this.
So we know that there's going to be topics and questions that are not appropriate to discuss during the meeting. And we told certain individuals that we would address them offline. Now we have to make sure we do our part. And sometimes this is utilizing some of your leads. Is this something that they can help you with? Is this something we need to schedule one-on-one? Or can we quickly address it a couple minutes after the meeting? So don't skip this part. This is important that we hold up our end of the deal.
Right. So after you've actually addressed that with them, we've got the follow-up. And this is where making sure this information sticks really comes into play.
So, okay, guys, this is where we have to manage the expectations. So if your team retains half of what you taught during a meeting, please consider this successful. We as ops managers come and visit your spa every 3 months. We role play the same things every single time. We understand that it's not all going to be retained. We make a living off of people not retaining 100% of the material. Apply the same concept to your team. Half of the battle is executing the meeting, and the other half is the actions after the meeting.
Right. If they got it all the first time you told them, then there wouldn't be a reason for you to be there. So
Exactly. So you need to watch your team to see who is struggling to apply the information after the meeting. The first week after is going to be the most important. You can't wait a week to make sure we inspect the process. You need to watch and coach your team where they struggle and use those spa associate learning profiles to determine ahead of time who's likely going to need more reinforcement from you.
right. Don't let your meetings be the only place you talk about a topic or coach on it. Like Amanda was saying during some of her feedback, consistency is key, and you really need to lead by example. You're going to need to reiterate your goal and how to get there. So hold them accountable for applying this knowledge. Don't leave the information on your agenda. Bring it into your daily role plays. Bring it into your emails. Mention it in Slack or Asana. Make it a priority. You invested this time and money into hosting this meeting. Let's make sure it sticks. Surprise them with a verbal pop quiz on information that y'all reviewed at the meeting on their next shift. Keep in mind, too, everyone learns differently. That's why we made the learning profiles for spa associates. You delivered the information at the meeting, so now you need to take into account what kind of learner they are and decide what they're going to need your help with. if you see someone exemplify what you hosted your meeting about really well in the next couple of days, find a time to spotlight them. Don't wait until the next meeting to give them their 5 minutes of fame. Do it right then and there. Maybe email the team, post like a memo in the break room, post something over Asana or Slack. Just tell them they've been doing a great job and you notice it. Just like you used your stars during the meeting, use stars that exemplify it afterwards also. Make sure that they understand the benefit also for why they need to do this. You know, what's in it for them, whether it's more repeat business for your therapists, higher commissions, more membership sales for your spa associates, a tier bump. Find out what motivates them, their why. People are going to execute something because they know why they want to do it, not just because you told them to. So, you know, we covered a lot of different things, and a lot of this is, we know we talked to several different audiences today, but just remember not to talk about it once and then leave it. You're going to want to carry this forward.
Absolutely.
All right. So we've got some of our supporting material here that Melissa will tell you about, but all these different things we were talking about today are going to be posted with the webinar.
So don't forget to utilize that manager's training manual. This is probably going to be an ongoing document that you use. There's a ton of great information in there about meetings. Use your monthly performance evaluations. We have those new one-page documents, and you can tie in some of their success and struggles with those reviews. The Earning Potential program for your GWPs, and of course that Spa Associate Learning Profile that we've mentioned a few times.
Right, and we got some questions throughout this webinar too about how often to host meetings, what kind of games or contests you can do. I just want to reiterate what Melissa was just saying too. A lot of these best practices are in that manager's training manual. So this webinar will be recorded for you to go back through and listen. You can always flip through that that training manual. It was made by managers for managers, so it's got a lot of best practices from other managers in the field as well.
I see a ton of great contests and tracking boards on the manager's Facebook page too, so feel free to share those when you had something that works really well. I know the other managers out there really appreciate it.
Yes.
So just a quick reminder on the promotional calendar for June, July, and August. You should have this printed next to your calendar in your office and always kind of revisiting it throughout the quarter. That way you know what's coming up, where you can earn some GWPs, and what promotions that we have out. So keep this handy.
Yeah, these meetings take some prep time. It's not just you start preparing a week before. Like Amanda was telling us during her first time speaking, it takes some organization and some prep work. This will give you a heads up if you've got a promotion you need to coach the team on. So the last thing we will tell y'all is to mark your calendars. You may notice a small switch for the topics, and we just wanted to let you know our July topic is going to be on retaining spa associates. So that first 60 days instead of the train the trainer that was originally planned. And this is because it's based on feedback that we got from a lot of y'all in the field. This was a topic that a lot of people wanted to hear about, so we're going to address this a little bit sooner. Other than that, we cannot wait to see you all after Christmas in July, because we know you're all going to have amazing meetings for Christmas in July now. And we can't wait to see y'all on our next webinar on Tuesday, July 31st.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.